evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Christina Belmont-Small, President of the PTA Council of Howard County. Paul Lemley, President of the Howard County Education Association, and I are pleased to welcome you on behalf of our organization to tonight's Common Core Forum. The overall purpose of PTA is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. The PTA Council's role is to bring parents, educators, and the community information about issues impacting the education and well-being of our students. We're proud to have assembled a very distinguished panel of experts who will present information representing differing views about the Common Core state standards. We hope that the information you hear tonight will empower you as you advocate for your child. As many of you know, this event was rescheduled from December 8th due to bad weather. All of our experts here tonight were kind enough to accommodate our postponement dates. However, both our state and county superintendents, Drs. Lowry and Cruz, declined to participate or send representatives this evening. Although MSDE and the Howard County Public School System held forums and meetings on the Common Core, their events presented only one perspective on the Common Core, leaving parents with many unanswered questions. However, tonight's forum is unique. This is the first opportunity for parents to hear from the experts with differing perspectives on Common Core. Tonight, you'll get to hear a dialogue between the experts and then have an opportunity to engage with them yourselves. The format includes 3 sections. First, each panelist will make an opening presentation. Then they will participate in a moderated discussion with the other panelists. Following the moderated discussion, you, the audience, will have an opportunity to ask our panelists your questions. Lastly, in addition to audience questions, questions were submitted by Howard County educators. And of course, if there are any educators in the audience that would like to ask questions, we welcome yours as well. We'll be videotaping tonight's event so that those who are unable to join us will have an opportunity to watch the forum later. I will now turn the evening over to our moderator, Reg Avery, Executive Vice President of the PTA Council, and will begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. We look forward to an exciting and hopefully informational time. I'm going to introduce each speaker, and as I introduce that speaker, that person will give their presentation. I should hold your questions until the question and answer portion begins later in our evening. But do write any questions that you have, write them down until we prepare. Our first speaker is Mr. Michael Brickman. Mr. Brickman is the National Policy Director for the Thomas B. Fordham Institute, where he is a commentator on educational reform issues and is a regular contributor to the Fly Paper blog and other publications. Mr. Brickman served as the communications roles in state and national politics, political campaigns before being tapped by Governor Scott Walker to lead his educational reform efforts in Wisconsin. He worked to support collective bargaining, reforms, increase standards, accountability, expand school choice, and keep college affordable through innovative reforms. He graduated from the University of Delaware with an honors bachelor's degree in political science, and he currently lives here in the Washington, D.C. area. Mr. Brickman.
Hi, well, thank you so much for that introduction, and good evening to everyone who's here, fellow panelists. It's an honor to be here tonight to discuss this vital issue of raising expectations for children in the state of Maryland. Thank you to the PTA Council of Howard County for hosting this event, and Reg for moderating it tonight. My name is Michael Brickman, and as Reg said, I'm the National Policy Director of the Thomas B. Fordham Institute in Washington, D.C. We focus on higher standards, accountability, school choice, and other issues important to improving our schools. Prior to joining Fordham, I was in Governor Scott Walker's office. We worked on a number of different issues, including dramatic improvements to strengthening accountability, improving options for parents and children, and refocusing the educational system on serving students rather than special interest groups. As a strong conservative and a strong supporter of the Common Core standards, I'm here to urge you to stay the course with these improved standards here in Maryland. For 30 years, ever since the Nation of District report during the Reagan administration, conservatives and others have been fighting for higher standards and greater accountability for our schools. It's been defenders of the status quo, however, who have been arguing that it's not fair to hold schools accountable for results. Really? Is it not fair, though, to expect schools to teach students to learn to read, to write, and to compute? It's been defenders of the status quo who have been arguing that it's not fair to have high expectations for students in poverty. But is it fair to give those kids a diploma they can't read? Or to pass them along grade to grade, even as they can't write or do math? I'll concede that the adoption of standards in Maryland and elsewhere should have been more transparent and open. I think conversations like this, however, are important, and that's why I agree with this. I do worry, though, that many conservatives and many others are simply seeking more information, while many others are taking this opportunity and using it to their advantage to lower expectations and water down school accountability. In 2010, Fordham Institute reviewed the English and math standards in 50 states and compared them to the Common Core. We've been doing similar reviews of state standards for 15 years, and the results on the latest evaluation was that the Common Core standards were good enough to earn an A- in math and a B+ in English, significantly better than the grades of 3/4 of the states and on par with the rest. In Maryland, your English standards received a C, while the math standards were rated a D by our expert reviewers, making them among the worst in the nation. In both subjects, while not perfect, Common Core standards are clearly superior to the standards they replaced. And let's get a little bit more specific. What made your standards relatively weak? I'll quote from our review. Aside from a few brief references in high school standards to suggested text and language, the standards provide no guidance about the quality or complexity of the text students should read across grade levels. Instead, the document merely provides a long list of genres that the student should read, and diversity of text is stressed, but with no guidance about what that actually means. And for math, not quoting from the report again. The weaknesses and the foundations for a whole number of arithmetic are pronounced. The standards do not adequately specify that students have automaticity or quick recall of basic number facts. These are the basic building blocks for the future of mathematics, and students who are still struggling with basic facts will not be prepared to move on to the next level of mathematics. Now, perhaps Maryland could have overcome the weaknesses in its standards by producing a rigorous test, but that has not been the case. In another Fordham Institute report, the proficiency illusion, we see that Maryland's proficiency cut scores, which are the level of reading and math skills that it took to get passing score, were far below levels necessary for college and career readiness, and even below national averages, which is saying something, because the cut scores nationwide were notoriously low. To be specific, we found that Maryland set its 4th grade reading proficiency cut score at the 20th percentile nationally. That means you can be reading worse than 80% of the students in the nation, and the state of Maryland would tell you, your family, and your teachers that you were doing just fine. Is it any wonder then that many young people in Maryland arrive at college unprepared to do college and work? In fact, 66% of Maryland students in 2-year colleges and 48% in 4-year colleges require remediation, which, according to a recent study, results in Marylanders paying to reteach college freshmen things they should have learned when they were in high school to the tune of roughly $72 million per year. Even young people in Maryland looking for a career in the military running the roadblocks, as 26.6% of Maryland applicants failed the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, which is one of the highest rates in the nation. So let me ask you this question. Is it good enough for Maryland? I really don't think so. And I don't think you think so either. But Maryland clearly can do better. In the mid-2000s, the nation's governors and state superintendents started to acknowledge that their own standards and tests were not rigorous enough to prepare students for what comes next, either college or a good-paying career. So they agreed to collaborate on a new set of standards that would be guided by the best research and evidence, and would be modeled after the standards of high-performing states and nations. At the end of the process was the Common Core state standards. Now let's be clear. They're not perfect. And as I mentioned earlier, they received an A- and a B+ from our review perspective for math and English. But they're pretty darn good. Math standards are incredibly solid on arithmetic, expecting students to know their math facts cold, to memorize their multiplication tables, to use standard algorithms, and not to use calculators until they're older and ready to use them. The English standards ask schools to bring back rigorous content in all subjects. And that's why E.D. Hirsch, founder of the Core Knowledge Program and author of Cultural Literacy, is so encouraging. They expect the students to read great works of literature and solid nonfiction sources too, like the nation's founding documents. The Common Core standards don't dumb down education. In fact, just the opposite. And when combined with a solid curriculum and lessons, which are still the province of local school boards, as they should be, the standards should lead to significantly stronger teaching and learning in the classroom. So why is there so much controversy? I've traveled a lot across the country, a lot in the past 6 months, and especially with red states. To me, it's clear that people have three main concerns about the Common Core. First, the standards are supposedly creatures of the federal government. Second, that certain materials posted online, or even found in some of your local schools, seem designed to indoctrinate rather than to educate. Third, the standards raise concerns about students' privacy. Let's talk about each of those myths one at a time. First, federalism. I'm a strong believer in the 10th Amendment. I believe in a very limited role for the federal government when it comes to education. Frankly, I have sympathy, though, with critics, because it's true that Barack Obama politicized the standards by taking credit for them every time he had a chance in the campaign trail, and when he did it again last year during the State of the Union address. It sure doesn't help that his Education Secretary, Arnie Duncan, seems to go out of his way to belittle Common Core opponents. And so it's no surprise that people have a misunderstanding about the role the federal government played in the development of the standards. In fact, just recently, even the Associated Press had to issue a correction when he mistakenly said that the standards were created by the federal government. They weren't. The history is clear. These standards started out as a state-led effort. It was the governors and the state superintendents who came together voluntarily to draft higher common standards because they acknowledged that their own state standards were set too low. There was already momentum behind the standards before the Obama administration even took office. The Common Core started out as state standards and they need to remain state standards, with Washington needs to allow. On the second issue, there are a million ways to meet each of the individual goals set forth in the Common Core standards. But some attempts with the Common Core, with any set of standards, can be confusing, inappropriate, or just plain factually wrong. Some of them even claim, unfortunately, to be Common Core aligned. And parents are right to be upset when they see them coming home with their child's backpack. But it's important to remember that these claims of purported alignment are not certified by the creators of the standards or anyone else for that matter. In short, parent attempts at meeting a high standard like that set by the Common Core should not impugn the standards themselves. It's for this reason that those who mistakenly or dishonestly try to link good standards to bad content can never seem to demonstrate exactly how this or that lesson can be traced directly back to the standards themselves. Many Common Core opponents would have you believe that specific content that might disparage your favorite president or get its basic facts backwards is baked right into the Common Core. The reality, though, is that the Common Core standards are praiseworthy because they're fairly traditional. They're focused on basics such as mastering phonics, memorizing times tables, learning to write about evidence instead of just how you feel about a particular topic. As always, it's up to local educators to choose the best path for learning, and up to parents and citizens to keep a watchful eye on what is going on in the local schools. To paraphrase the Department of Homeland Security, if you see bad content in our schools, say something. Do make sure that you're saying to the right people, the educators, the school board members in your own community who have a say in these matters. Third, privacy. Some critics of the core standards have alleged that they open the door to invasions of privacy, to data warehouses that will allow the government to snoop on our children, or even sell sensitive data to for-profit companies. It's simply not true, and it's wrong for opponents to make these claims that frighten parents. I worry about data privacy as much as anyone, and it is a legitimate concern, generally. But there's nothing, and I repeat, nothing but the core standards that require particular data collection or an assault on privacy, as even the Cato Institute's Neil McCluskey, one of the Common Core's sharpest critics, acknowledges. Maryland has had strong data privacy laws, and they've been replicated even in other states, including Oklahoma. But they could further strengthen those laws if legislators find additional weaknesses. If the Common Core standards, though, were dispensed with tomorrow, is a really important point to understand. If the Common Core were dispensed with tomorrow, that would in no way address fears about data privacy or indoctrination or the federal role when it comes to education. Let me finish with a question. If Maryland backs away from the Common Core standards, then really going to return to your mediocre standards, your mediocre tests? And if not, what process would get you to a better place than the Common Core offers? Maryland took a big step forward with Common Core standards. Your educators are 3 years into this effort. They're being retrained, new textbooks are being purchased, and our standards have finally gotten the momentum they need. I really urge you not to slow down now. Don't turn back to the standards you had before. You're making progress, keep going. With that, we're going to have a great discussion tonight. I appreciate you having me here. And thank you for the concern of the future of students in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Brickman, very much. Thank you for your time.